in the ivory tower of the school setting, okay? And we call that SmartLab Learning at home. So basically taking all of that stuff that we do, Smart Labs, and taking it home and really engaging kids from all abilities and all levels in experiences that reinforce the academic connections while they're in any environment. So one thing that I do just want to say is, you know, this is a picture of the first public school in the United States. And, you know, first start thinking of kind of that old one-room schoolhouse. And that's kind of, to some extent, both our past and might even be some of our future, where kids are learning from any location rather than what we would usually say is kind of the ivory location of a school. And so when you think in that way, there's some things that we did really well in a one-room schoolhouse that we don't do now quite as well. And specifically, that's more around like looking at and observing and really recording the needs and following the needs and interests of every student in the space. Where, you know, a community would fund a school, they'd hire a teacher would come out, they'd really sit with those students every day and really observe what they're doing in their progress and make customized learning plans for every student. And, you know, as that expanded and as more kids were involved in that system, it become, you know, we kind of leaned on the fact that we need to teach kids a certain set of things in every grade range and for every ability. And I think in this transition with the pandemic, we're going to have to rely on that a little bit more, of going in and interacting with the students in the space, really understanding their needs and their abilities, and finding engaging activities for them at every ability level and at every interest. And across the board, I kind of hear it everywhere, from our own staff, from our trainers, from our partner schools, from the parents down the street, that things are going to be a little bit harder. And I think if we just embrace that and say it's going to be harder, but it's going to be good hard, and we, instead of saying, oh, well, we need to reinvent education, actually sit down and say, okay, well, what are the things that education does well that we haven't had a chance to do yet in our current school model? And how can we really leverage individualized and personalized learning to embrace where we are as a society, as a country, as a school community? Okay, so just keep that in mind. And then for us here at Creative Learning Systems, it's a little bit of an easier stretch, because our mission and kind of our core learning philosophy is that students, our goal is to increase the capacity of a student through engaged, active, and social problem solving. And so this is 100% our focus every day. So my team comes in, and our sole job is to build an engaging project-based learning system that allows students to grow. And we very specifically remove any arbitrary levels of what that growth would be. So we provide K-12 curriculum, and it's to some extent leveled because we want to take the students into account, but we give access to everything to everyone currently, so that kids can come in and there's no stigma associated with, oh, well, I had to do that elementary one. No, you actually just did a good and engaging project that tested your limits and you grew through. And when you think of it in that context, building a system to do that at home is a whole lot easier than trying to replicate a classroom at home. Okay. And so we do that, and the core of that is a project philosophy, which is EPDRS, Explore, Plan, Do, Reflect, and Share. And that framework doesn't require anything, really. A kid can explore a rock and build a plan of how they want to build a wall with it, and then they can build that wall and they can share that wall with their community. And that framework can extend into, I want to build the coolest cooler challenge, or I want to design a flying wing in my classroom, or I'm at home with my parents and I want to figure out a better way for managing our bathroom use time, or whatever that is. And the kids explore the real world problem and they engage. They they jump in and they start coming in and saying, here's all of the items that we want. And just kind of looking at some of the chat and the questions that are coming in, this is very similar to other plans that you'll see, other cycles, the 5E model, the engineering design cycle, all of that. But this actually directly aligns with the curriculum and the resources and the materials that we have for the students. So it's not only that our system is based on this, it's actually fully integrated in this model. And so we actually do teach students this model in a way that we want them to not need the curriculum and resources, because they're actually at the point where they can come up with plans and outlines and ideas on their own. And so to some extent, this is a model that's designed to share with students and pass the ownership from the teacher to the students in the space, so that they actually go in and they know this like the back of their hand as they're progressing, and they learn it in every step of the way from kindergarten through 12th grade. And so that's kind of our framework. And there are lots, they're all very similar. But, kind of going back to how you can transition that at home, well, it's kind of a little bit scary at the moment. And, I've been a teacher, a SmartLab facilitator, a technology administrator, a district rep, AP, all of that stuff. And this is probably one of the most challenging transitions I've seen for schools moving forward. And this is kind of what you see, what we all see when we look at all of the various news sources, when we turn on the television at night and we're checking in on the news. We're hearing about, the uncertainty of a pandemic, but we're also hearing about the uncertainty of our profession as it relates to that pandemic. And every news source is really highlighting that we don't know what we don't know yet. And this kind of quote from Politico really summarizes it for me. Like, this is a political organization that's saying, hey, we don't know what we're going to do. And that's really what my team came in and said, okay, well, we know that model. We know the 5E model, and we know the 5E model, we know the engineering design process. We know our model, right? Explore, plan, do, reflect, and share. And we know that like the back of our hand, and we can apply it to almost any situation. And our expert facilitators, which there are several on the call, also know that and can get kids to jump into that. What we need to figure out is, how do we jump into that with the world we are in now? And that's what we started designing for. And that's what I'm going to be sharing with you here, is how all of that works. So again, kind of going back to what the SmartLab philosophy is it's the process of increasing a student's capacity. Okay? And that may be in problem solving, it may be in documentation, it may be in social interaction. And it just depends on what the student needs and where they are interested and engaged and where they're going to grow. And this is what we came up with. And what we really looked at is we've been in the business of creating these multifaceted turnkey solutions of a smart lab. It's a big investment. It's a big place where kids can go into a school environment and really engage with engaging technologies and learning. And what then happens is, okay, well, we've got this space, we've got this STEM center, we've got this resource. And now I'm not sure that my kids will even be able to attend. And so what we really wanted to start saying is, okay, well, where is education trending? And we saw things, everything from we're going to be 100% digital to we're going to be 100% in person to everything in between, with variety. Some of the early results from Texas were showing, hey, we might do 2 or 3 weeks in person and then 2 or 3 weeks out of session. And we're still seeing updates almost daily from schools that are saying, here's issues that we're running into, and here's our plan for implementation moving forward. Okay. So what this is, and what you see in the images, is a framework. It's a project-based plan that we put together for 18 weeks of instruction. And it's really designed so that kids have the tools and the resources that they need in one self-contained, easily portable location, which is a backpack. And everything goes into that. It is project-based. It relies on the EPDRS framework, and it takes it into a way that allows students to design and build their own projects, but it has the support for those folks to kind of go in and grow. Okay. What is in it is, I'm actually going to show you here, is a quick video, and I'm just going to let it play through so that we can really just take a look at all of the stuff that is in an example backpack. And this one is on snap circuits. It's the rover specifically. And what I want to call to mind is the idea that we actually are designing these so that they have all of the things that the kids need in the backpack itself. So as that backpack unpacks in that video, you see the kit, the engaging piece of technology, but you also see that the other parts are organized into smaller containers so that the kids can organize them and have all the resources they need. Then we couple that with the additional resources that don't come as part of the kit, but that you really need to have to engage kids and build in for the learning, right? And so then the folks can really, the kids can really jump in, and they have curriculum cards in the packet, they have project planning cards, they have, you know, everything's laminated so kids can write directly on it with wet erase markers and bring it back into the classroom to show the teacher, or they can use our e-portfolio setup to document from home if they have internet and devices and technology at home that they can use. Okay, and so that was kind of the first thing. And, you know, to extrapolate just a little bit more, this is really the stuff that comes in. It's the same kit. And it really is the mixture of everything. So when we go in and we design a kit for a smart lab space, we want to make sure that you don't need anything else. That all of the items that we have created and curated for the lab has everything. So it has the engagement, the curriculum, it has extend yourself challenges if you're using our online curriculum. And then it actually dives into a much larger set of ongoing resources around, you know, here's some books, here's some resources for you to engage in so that you can continue to learn. So if this kit and project just piqued your interest, well, great. Let's actually go in and here's a book about the Mars rover, and here's another book about other resources that you can use to jump into and build more projects as you progress. Okay. We have specifically designed these around a couple of grade bands. And by that, we mean that there's certain skills that we tend to kind of aim for. And so we define primary as kind of kindergarten to second grade. We really define those folks as early or emerging readers. So kids that really need a little bit more structure. They can't necessarily take a book like this and go and read on their own, but some of them can. And so that's kind of one grade band that we do really target for. And there's a set of resources and equipment and apparatus and backpacks for those students. Then we have 3rd through 5th grade. And those kids are kids that we do rely on a little bit more for having at least baseline reading skills. And so their resources are more tended toward, you know, things that kids can get in the activity cards or the books, and there are fewer pictures and things like that because we are relying on them to have a little bit more reading experience. And then as you progress, then we have our 6-8 solution for those kind of middle school kids. And as you progress up, we actually increase technology use along the way. So the kids in primary has very little technology use that they need at home, because that can also be another struggle as kids are learning those things. Then in elementary school, there's some very specific, engaging, at-home learning, distance technology related activities. So things like designing for 3D printing and things like that. And then in middle school, that actually moves more towards about a 50-50, where we are expecting the kids to have more access to technology, where they're going to be progressing into that, and they're going to have the ability to document their work online, to extend themselves with online research and all of that as they progress. Okay. Now, if you caught it as I was going, that really did say solution 1 on it that I've just kind of chatted about for the last few minutes. But what really happens is the second solution is really around professional development. And okay, so here's a bunch of backpacks. You may know who we are and what we do, and you may already be a SmartLab facilitator or have a SmartLab in your lab and really understand what SmartLab Learning is. And then we're going to put you into an 8-hour crash course in using these backpacks. On the other side, if you don't have a SmartLab and you're coming to us and saying, hey, this would be a really good addition for us, then we can actually onboard you into that philosophy and that five-step process, EPDRS, so that you have that foundation and you can see the research basis for that as you progress into deploying for at-home learning. But either way, we've got to make sure we're training the staff who's working with it, and we're engaging and making sure that it is used to the best of your needs, making sure that we take into account the scheduling constraints and issues that you have in your local community. And so what that PD looks like is we actually begin with a webinar where we actually help you unpack those backpacks. We walk you through the components that are there. We help you really understand how to sterilize kits and equipment, how to do all of that stuff in that first hour. Then we schedule individualized consultations with you that are an hour long, where we talk through what's your schedule, how are you planning on deploying these, what are the best practices for that, and then, okay, great, we're going to help you come up with your plan so that now you have the backpacks, you know what's in them, you know what the kids are expected to do, and we have a plan for you to implement those. And then we're going to do a bunch of additional PD hours and webinars that you can attend, directly, or you can watch recordings of, depending on how your schedule works, where we're going to walk through things like assessing kids in a remote learning way, best practices for project management and kind of project-based learning in a remote and blended learning model. And then as we progress through, we're going to offer another consultation. So if you're struggling, if you have an issue, if you have any of those things, then we can actually go in and we can say, okay, well, here's some suggestions we have. We'll work with our master trainers to get all of that. Okay. The big thing I want to kind of just cover in that is that all of this is based on our curriculum. So whether you're an old customer or a new customer, we will be giving you access to our curriculum as well, so that you have access to resources and materials and a flow for the backpacks. And what you'll see if you're an old customer is that there's some things that you'll know and love that you'll see in these backpacks. And if you ask for a list, then you'll see familiar titles and resources. But everything has really been geared for the backpack deployment. So things that we would give you a large tub of before would be things where we would actually break that up for you, so that you don't have to go to the shelf on the wall and take a large tub of materials and then meticulously try and sort them into backpacks to make that work. What you're going to get is just smaller versions of that are engaging for kids at home and have the organization built in. And so what we really did is we started with a smart lab, and then we said, okay, well, we want to really optimize for the best experience for students. And that's where we provision those kits, is to be as engaging for the kids and have all of the resources that they need to succeed and keep moving forward with. So in that vein, there's one more thing that I want to cover that is just not on these slides, and that's around the curriculum. And so those of you who are our customers, you know this, but we provide something called the standards tracker. And so all of our curriculum is listed in cross-reference to all of the national standards. And by that, we start with Common Core, but we also include all 50 states and the larger technology, the Texas Techs, things of that nature, so that you can actually take this engaging backpack and go in and say, okay, I want this backpack to teach the scientific method. Great, let's go into the next generation science standards. Let's find specific things around the process standards, and let's see how that correlates to existing curriculum in the backpacks. And so you as a SmartLab facilitator can use this to continue the learning that's occurring in the lab from a variety of frameworks, or you can actually use it to supplement classroom instruction that's going on. And we designed that intentionally because we're actually seeing that some schools where a smart lab is traditionally called specials, those special teachers are being reallocated to kind of meet the needs of the current education climate. And so this might actually just supplement. If you're, you used to be a STEM teacher and now you're teaching science, well, great. Here's the STEM kits you know and love, and here's the tools and resources to help you align those to the science instruction that you're doing. And so it gives kids both that hands-on tactile learning from home, but it also aligns with the things you know and love and the standards now that you're being asked to teach. And so we really did design that way. Now, there's all of these options. There's backpack options. There's all of that stuff that you guys can explore. The big thing that I keep adding more and more. I keep saying, oh, there's one more thing I want to talk about, but I could talk about these until I'm blue in the face, apparently. And the other thing, though, is that these were designed to be easy to clean, because we want to make sure that, one, they're transparent so that the kids can engage with them. They can see, and they can really kind of viscerally see, oh, well, that's a really cool kit that I want to do next time. But then you get all of these bags, these backpacks, and we actually do ask that, the kids rotate through them. So they get an experience with a robot, and then they get an experience with, designing a solar cooker, and then they move on to the next engagement. But that the materials actually do pass between groups of students. And what we provide along the way is a set of resources that you can kind of opt into to help sterilize. And it's everything from spray to UVC tech tubs that you can put, a Chromebook or an iPad in and sterilize, as well as the kits and apparatus, to tubs to help dip everything and make it work. And following our model where, kids explore, plan, do, reflect, and share, SmartLab Learning always has a social component. The kids are asked to work in pairs. So if you contact one of our sales reps and really are engaged and want one of these solutions and these bundles, they're gonna ask you what length of programming you want, and then they're gonna immediately default to offering you 2 of every backpack, so that the 2 kids can, even though they are working remotely, maybe from home, they can engage in that and still communicate and collaborate around the projects that they're doing, even when they're not in the classroom. Okay. Then kind of following that, our engagements, or each backpack is designed to be about a week of engagements. And that is assuming that you just do the things that are on the card and the kids don't really expand on that or come up with their own things or use our online curriculum to supplement. Okay. And so then following that 18 weeks, you'd get 18 pairs of backpacks bundled together to meet that need with the PD and the curriculum access. Okay. All right, so I've been chatting at you guys for a long time. There's been a lot of questions rolling in, but I wanna just take a moment and give you guys a second to kind of think about any questions you have around the backpacks, any thoughts, concerns, ideas, or any questions that we can answer before we wrap up the webinar.
Hi, Victor. This is Lori, and questions are rolling in. I've tried to stay up with those. What I can tell you is with pricing, we'll be reaching out to you regarding pricing as soon as this is finished, to give you guys an idea of exactly what the different backpacks consist of, and then what the pricing is for that.
Mm-hmm. Great, and I'm watching the chat here too, so I'll answer a couple of these that I've seen kind of roll in. So it is kind of an expectation that the backpacks are rotated kind of on a weekly basis, and we have after each project engagement, and our engagements are designed to be somewhere between 5 days of normal instruction and 7. So that could be a week, it could be 2, it could be, that's why we're going to consult with you in that project, implementation step and in that PD, so that we really know how you're going to optimize those, and we can build that plan with you based on your schedule. But then what happens is those those backpacks go home. They, in an ideal world, and the way I kind of conceptually see it and the way we've seen some pilot schools work on it, is that the kids actually do it in both places. And so the backpack is just kind of assigned to the student, and they do it both in person or they do it at home. And it just depends on the situation. So that works well for an A/B type schedule. It might work well on if, you know, you're a SmartLab facilitator, but you're displaced and you're down the hall and you don't have all the resources you used to have. Then the kids can come in and they can do the backpacks in that room, and they can stay in that room, and the kids can engage with those. Then what you see is, okay, well then at the end of that project cycle, and again, that's something we'll talk to you guys about in scheduling. So that may be a week, it may be 2, and we see a wide variety. Then what you can do is, you know, pull the backpacks apart and actually have the students do that. And you can use the sterilization solutions to actually spray down the backpacks, get them all sterilized and repacked for the next student. So in, you know, that kind of mentality where you're doing kind of all of the kids have it this week and maybe they have it, a different group of kids has it next week, you should be able to sterilize so that the groups do not cross-pollinate. Now, what we're always designing for is trying to meet the needs of as many students as possible. And I wouldn't say that we're perfect, but I would say that we try. And so as we design, we make sure that we're really looking at colors on the page, at white space, making sure that our curriculum has the ability to be approached from kids who are ELL students or have, you know, challenges that they're dealing with, whether that's an IEP or a 504, where, you know, they can really understand from the curriculum that's in the backpack what they're supposed to do, even if they can't read it. And so there's visual cues on the cards, there's engaging activities, and at the end of the day, we provide the communication to the parents as well. So there's resources, there's materials that the parents can understand what's going on so that they can help get the students started. And they can say, you know, here's the first thing that we do in a Smart Lab is we give the students a set of materials and resources and we say, what does it do? And that's not necessarily something that I want to script as a facilitator. I want the student to really dive in and start touching and feeling and engaging with all of the activities and the resources that they have in front of them. And then I want to debrief with them. And I want to have a discussion, or I want them to write it down, or I want them to draw a picture, or I want them to, you know, point to things as we talk about how the things add up and how the kids can actually create a project that is engaging for them out of the things that they've engaged with. And so we really do try to build a system that's approachable for every student, regardless of ability level. But you'll see in the backpacks that there are some that require a little bit more kind of visual engagement. There are some that require a little bit more tactile engagement. But across the spectrum, we try to really meet every learner where they're at. And they really are designed in that way, so that, you know, in an 18-week program bundle, you'd have access to engaging in a wide range of technology and topics, but you'd also have a wide range of tactile and visual and engaging experiences for kids. And then when you couple that with our online programming, where you can add in, you know, text to speech and things like that, then we can start accommodating a whole lot more ability ranges for students. And so that's just something I did want to say. Like, it is something we specifically designed for, and it's something that we're always designing for and always improving on. So just keep that in mind as well. So just kind of going to questions, I think kind of Lori caught onto it there. The 18 or 12 weeks is more around program length, and then the backpacks come in pairs based on every week. So, you know, if you're buying a 12-week program, that'd be 24 backpacks. If you were buying 18, that would be 36. And all of that kind of progresses through so that you have a range of experiences, and kids are not going to need to really dive in and, you know, create their own activities in that first 18 or 12 or 18 weeks. All right. Any other questions, comments, concerns that we can cover here? A lot of the questions about planning, purchasing, getting those items are ones that, I'm sure Lori would say, your sales rep, if you're a current customer, should be reaching out to you. Everybody else should be heading towards our sales reps, and they can answer all of those questions about how you're going to get them, purchasing, grade level bands, all of those things, sterilization options. And I actually just want to do a shout out. I am watching the chat, so some of the questions that I'm answering here are more long-winded approaches to things that Lori's also answering. But specifically around students who have a wide variety of needs, if you have questions about the backpacks, then tell your sales rep that you want to have a chat with them and me, and we can arrange that, and we can have a discussion about how we can deploy those bags or that engaging set of resources specifically for the kids in your community. And so I just want to put that on the table as well, is that, I'm not just saying, hey, the sales reps can take it from here, but if you have questions and you want to know how this can work in your situation, feel free to be direct and tell them you want to chat with me or a member of my team. Okay. And I think we're actually over time here. So I can turn it over to Lori, and Lori can, we can keep answering questions, or, your call.
Well, thank you, Victor. I really appreciate all the information and all of the questions that are coming in. So we're very excited to connect with you. We will be reaching out within the next 24 hours, and I know that many of you are asking for pricing, so we're going to connect with you immediately. So if there's no additional questions, I want to thank you. Jen, very quickly, I see your question, and Brian will reach out to you today. He has taken Stan's place. So thank you guys very much. We hope that you found this informative, and we will have this for you to replay as well if you want to share out the information with others at your school and continue that conversation. Otherwise, the regional sales managers will be in contact very soon.
And just one more thing I wanted to mention is, so this is part 2 of 3. And so the first one, we really did kind of a quick overview of what SmartLab Learning was and our project cycle. And now we're talking about how you can apply that to at-home learning with your students. But the next step is, okay, well, I have a Smart Lab, and I want to just make sure that the Smart Lab is as engaging and friendly for students in the space as possible when we come back in the fall. And we're going to talk about other options. We're going to talk to you about design constraints for social distancing and sterilization of kits and apparatus. And we're going to kind of walk through all of that with you next Tuesday. So keep that in mind. There's one more part of these that will be Tuesday, same time. And so stay tuned for that. And as Lori said, if you have any questions, the sales reps will be reaching out.
Thank you.
Thank you all.